Aaron says about Bronson, our tight end Bronson, I love him, one of the happiest guys ever. Head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. I've never seen a guy work harder. Like,
those are some pretty good people
those
to
are
have
some
your
pretty
back.
good people, right?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go pay those guys now. Those guys are...
Welcome back to the South Valley Chamber podcast. I am Jen, and I am joined by my lovely, amazing co-host, Dave Kawaja. Hey, Dave.
Jen, it's great to be back.
I'm like buzzing with energy today. I am like just, the sun is shining outside. I've had an incredible week. How's your week been?
You were in London.
I was in London.
For a week, right?
For 10 days.
10
days. And it's like we talk about as business owners doing a little blended life, right? So a little bit of business and a little bit of personal. So I brought the whole family. My middle son graduated from college.
Congratulations.
So we were celebrating that and met some really incredible business owners that are in our field. So yeah, it's awesome. I am a little jet lagged. So if my words slur, you all know I'm like...
She's not drunk, everybody.
I'm not drunk. I swear I haven't drank today yet. No, just kidding. It's been a great couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm with you on the sun shining. I've been out riding my motorcycle as much as I can,
Amazing.
Minus the Utah rain when we get it every other day.
Every other day.
You take advantage of it when you can, and it's been really good for my soul. So I've really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. I also have to just say thank you, Mountain America. Again, we are in this beautiful studio that they are so kindly willing to help let us use with the amazing staff here that are experts at developing these things. So thank you, Mountain America, for your support of the podcast and of course the chamber. We so appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have great sponsors, great support. Thank you, Braden, for scheduling and bringing on all of our wonderful guests,
Yes.
Which we have a pretty wonderful guest today.
This is a great segue, Dave. Just like, that's amazing. But we're like fanboying over here. We kind of have like a celebrity, so
Not kind of,
we're
we do.
kind of big time now. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so we've been pushing out a series on health and wellness, and we'd like to give a big welcome to Bronson Kafusi for coming into the studio today. Thank you, Bronson.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Welcome,
This is gonna be
Bronson.
fun.
This is going to be so fun. We've already been having fun, so this is awesome. So I'm going to just tell our listeners, just in case you're a University of Utah fan and you don't know about Bronson. No, I'm kidding. I'll tell you a little bit. So Bronson is a dual sport athlete at BYU. You played football and basketball, graduated with a degree in statistics analytics. That sounds really cool.
I'm a nerd.
I love it. I love it.
Just a big
A
one.
nerdy athlete.
Yeah.
But then you were drafted to the Ravens in 2016 and you played in the NFL until 2022, playing both tight end and defensive end. And you were with the Packers and the Jets. Like, incredible.
Man.
Amazing.
Thanks for making me sound really good.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
And now you're like this business mogul. So like we've literally got a superstar here on the podcast today. So I did a little bit of like super sleuthing on you before
Which is
the
what
podcast,
Jen does.
Which
I
is
like
my
it.
job. This is what I do, y'all. I will find you and everything about you. No, I'm kidding. But let me just like tell you these quotes, Dave. Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody knows who Aaron Rodgers is, right?
Right.
Green Bay Packers quarterback. Aaron says about Bronson, our tight end Bronson, I love him, one of the happiest guys ever. That's awesome.
I love life now.
I know you're thinking about locker room stuff, aren't you?
And then, okay, how do I say his name? John Harbaugh?
Harbaugh. Yeah.
John Harbaugh, so head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. I've never seen a guy work harder. He's an A+ worker. And it showed up in the way that he walks around and carries himself, his strength. That is like, oh my gosh. So yeah, like
Those are some pretty good people
those are
to have
some
your
pretty
back.
good people to say like you're the happiest guy he's ever known. So
And the most hardworking guy.
and the
that he's been around.
most hardworking, like what a combo, right?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go pay those guys now. Those guys are...
I see some blushing coming through right now. I see it.
I know. I'm embarrassed.
Amazing. So all right. So that's what this podcast is all about, right? We talk about small business. It's business ownership. You now are there in business, Bronson, but like that mentality is something that I feel like clearly you have mastered. So we want to talk to our listeners about just yeah, exactly that, your experience around mental health. But I should also mention you are now part of the Harris Investment Group, which is a real estate private equity firm.
Yeah.
So you are running hard now at a different place in business, but probably applying all those amazing experiences and lessons you learned as an athlete.
Oh yeah, every day. It's crazy, the crossover, honestly.
Really?
It is. Yeah. I mean, like when people watch athletes on TV, they sometimes feel like so separate from them, but really they're way more similar than what they think, because I mean they're just playing football as their performance and job or business, but it's the same mentality. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, I love drawing, those, similarities between the two, because people are way more similar to pro athletes than what they think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine we talk about small business leaders and it can be lonely, right? You're like, you have to make the decisions, or in the athlete's case, right? Your performance is scrutinized constantly. So like, should we just dig into this, Dave? Like, let's dig in.
Go.
Like, what are the
we
secrets,
don't-
Bronson?
We're not soft here.
We're not soft. Like, give us the details. How do we do this? No, but talk to us about mindset and that crossover
Yeah.
into business.
With me, like when I started to understand and take mindset more serious, it was my sophomore year in college. And I had a pretty good freshman year, football and basketball. And then in my sophomore year, I became the full starter, but then I got benched. And my dad's my coach at BYU.
Oh.
So I got benched because I wasn't performing on game day. And when he sat me down, called me in, sat me down, he said, "Hey, I want you to focus on mindset." And I said, "Okay, what does that mean?" And he's like, "You're gonna go get a mindset coach and take this to a new level." And I was like, "Okay." He's like, "You're great and everything else, but on game day you just don't perform like the way like that I know you can and you need to." And so I was like, I'm one of those guys where I'm like, if you tell me how to do something, I'm one of those guys like, how high, how far, so I went all in and it opened up. I mean, it literally was the thing that took me to the next level.
Wow.
Like you watch the film from my sophomore year to my senior year, it's like there are two different people underneath that helmet. Like who was that person? But it was just because mentally I had to understand that you can train your mental game just like you would train your body or train your skill. And and the science and the research is so good nowadays. And they uncover new stuff. Like it is crazy. So I just took it very serious and went all in and learned so much about sports psychology and how to actually use it. I think that was the one thing that really separated, a lot of the different mindset coaches and mental strength coaches out there. Is like a lot of coaches will tell you, "Oh yeah, you should do this and this," but that's more theory. Like, or they'll talk about theory. It's like, I want application. Like, give me the stuff that I can do. Because if I can do it, then I'll see a lot more change. And honestly, for me, a lot of it was confidence. But that's where I saw my biggest strides. So it was incredible being coached by all these awesome mindset coaches throughout my career.
Yeah.
And I learned so much.
So I'm listening to that, and I'm trying to apply like back when I played high school baseball, right? And it's like practice is one thing, but putting that into a game is another thing. And it sounds like you can probably go work hard in practice when you're doing drills, right, and playing against your friends and your teammates, and there's some laughter and banter going on. But come game day, like you got to flip that switch and focus on what your job is, because your position, you got a job to do. And I get it. If you don't perform, like I remember, my dad was never my coach, but I remember sitting on the sidelines. He's like, "Hey, choke up. Hey, do this, do that." And I'm like, I'm trying to play a game here, right? And I could tell at that time my mind wasn't in the right spot, because I was like, oh, I'm going to go hit a ball and I'm going to run around. I'm going to get some exercise today, but it wasn't baseball in position. So I had that exact same thing when I was in high school, trying to play some ball. And I mean, obviously, I never went anywhere after that with college, but I can see from where you were at your sophomore year, talk about your senior year, then obviously the quotes that we heard from from the people that were in your life that were your next coaches and moving on forward, and the guys in your team. And obviously you've done some incredible things with that mindset. So, and obviously why you're here today, to help us understand how we can get better in our own.
That's right. That's right. So Bronson, what's the take us to game day? Like what does it look like to sort of set that mentality into action, right? Like what's the do, right? What do you do?
Okay. So there was one word that you used that is probably like one of the most important aspects of mindset and something actionable that you can do. You use the word set. Okay. So you said set your mindset. And that is a big thing. Like you have to set your mindset. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, they just kind of go out there and hope that they get in the mindset. But we don't have room for hope. As an athlete, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, we have to perform. So, okay, I'm going to set my mindset. So on game day, there's so many different things that go into setting. Some sports psychologists will call it priming. You do it on game day. You do it every day of your life. You do it all the time. So for a lot of the pro athletes, I mean, lots of times they are going to, like part of setting starts the day before, even the week before, where you're going to be hydrated enough. We can't afford getting a muscle pull or something. We are going to go to bed at the right time. We're going to wake up at the right time. We're going to eat the right things at the right time. We're going to have studied everything. We're going to be so dialed in. So that way, before I'm even on the field or at the stadium, I am building this confidence through action, right? And so what happens is game day comes, okay, we've done all this setting. Like we are physically set, we're primed, okay? Mentally, we're really clear on our job and like all the plays and all these different things. And now I show up to the locker room and, okay, everyone has their own little thing that they do before the game, whatever that is. Most of the time, guys have headphones on, they're listening and stuff. I don't know, it just depends. And then guys have their own warm-ups, because they just have to be able, when it's time to play, you want to have your energy at a certain level right when you get out there. Now, if you bring your energy too high, too fast, you're going to die out. So you have to be really good at, the research in different books, they call it like energy oscillation. Your energy's the best players go up and down. They don't just stay high all day because they're going to fall. So you get really good at this. And so you want to, you're building, and then your energy gets high, right at the right time during the game. Well, football's a stop and go game. So when you're off the sideline, right, you're going to come back down and you go back up. But I would say for me, when it comes to nerves, because that's a big thing. You're about to run out of the tunnel. There's thousands of people, fireworks. NFL's a show. Just all pro sports is, right? And so,
totally.
I know, right? Like it's wild. Like and so it's like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Like in that situation? Well, a lot of times, there's a lot of different skills when it comes to calming your nerves. And the main reason why you're calming your nerves is because you're blocking out distractions, because there's distractions everywhere. And the greatest athletes can block out distraction, especially when it's time to perform. So, for us, a lot of athletes will, sports psychology, the law of occupied space, we have the space in our brain, we want to fill it with things that will pretty much help us focus on what we can do. And it's not about what we can't do.
Yeah.
So and there's a bunch of other things that go into this, but okay, what can I do? Okay, what do I do great? And so you start to remind yourself of this, and you're going over and over in your head, and all of a sudden you start to attract, man, I'm the best in the world. It doesn't matter who I go against. I don't care who I line up against.
Awesome.
You know how many people don't say that to themselves? Because everyone thinks, I can't do this. I'm not that good. I can't. And I struggle at this. Oh man, if only I was like this person.
Yes.
It's like, man, we can't perform at our best if we have that mindset.
Yeah.
Because now we go into this whole aspect called the law of attraction, where we're going to attract what we're filling that law of occupied space with. So it's important that, that space is filled with words, right? And words that are strong, powerful, and how you talk about yourself and to yourself. Oh, it's the most powerful thing that you can do as an athlete and entrepreneur. So you're doing that all the way up to the game. And then I also like to think of things that will calm my nerves, like what's my favorite place to be? For me, I like to be up in the Utah mountains. So if I start to feel really nervous in the tunnel, I start to think of, man, the Utah mountains, I love that place. You know,
And is it like you've done this now? Because I imagine it's also like about practice, right? And as you practice it, it just starts to come naturally to you, so that it's almost muscle memory. You're like, okay, I'm nervous. I need to go to this place, right? Like it's just
yeah.
That is
true.
Yeah,
that is so true. And something that I found in college, which was very helpful for me, is whenever I would start to feel, extremely nervous, and I would do some things to, like, a part of the setting and priming, kind of like before, is like I would, I'd smell the grass. That was my cue. I'd smell the grass, and it brings me to the moment, the present. And then for me, I'd always have to remind myself of, something to do with gratitude about the opportunity. So it's like, for me, I'd always look over, my dad was my coach, right? I look over at my dad, and I'd be like, wow. He's from Tonga, came here, moved here to Utah, and played. He was the first one to play football in the family. All of his brothers played. He coached. I mean, it's life-changing. Football changed our lives. Everyone, all my cousins play, everyone plays this game. Yeah, and so I would look at him, and my cue was like, look at dad, because I would go to a place of gratitude, but it almost make me emotional to the point where, like, now I have endless energy. I don't care how long I'm going to be out here. I don't care how many downs. I don't care who the guy is. Like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. So I get into this state of mind where I love being able to tap into something that I can always go to. That's always going to, like, make me feel like, hey, you get to play this game today. You know how many people sacrifice for you to be here today? That type of mindset.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
I think I'm going to wake up tomorrow and be like, I want to be like Bronson.
Like right now, right?
I'm going to cut out my popcorn and my Red Bulls and everything. Like, mindset.
So Dave, like, do you have an equivalent of this in business, right? Like, all
the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, right, being in a couple of different fields. It's funny. I've kind of been a little bit more open with this lately with all that I do, because I do so much with the chamber. I obviously have my finance business, and then I'm also in water and wastewater treatment, which is 3 totally opposite things from each one of them.
Yeah.
So I'm wearing so many different hats every day. And on the finance side of it, it's like, I went to school and learned commercial finance and how I can, present business loans and structure loans and help companies grow and get what they need. But then I look back and I'm like, man, I'm like this fully tattooed biker from my chest down to my hands and my legs and everything. Like, I show up to meetings and people don't take me serious because they're like, who are you? Like, you're not the banker that I was expecting to be. And I had a chance meeting with this Utah district judge that we had a women in business event for with the chamber. And I was telling her this story, and because she's obviously looking at me like, what do you do, right? And so we got in this conversation, and she's like, how about the next time someone says you don't look like the normal banker, say, well, what does a banker look like?
I love that.
And for me, that was my mindset, to be like, it doesn't matter if I'm wearing a suit, if I'm in a polo, if I'm in shorts, and I'm showing it off. Like, this is me, and I have a skill set that I can bring to the table. And for me, that was my set. It's like, I am qualified to do this, and I can.
Yeah, that's your superpower too.
That's right.
That's the thing. That's what's crazy. That's probably my biggest thing about, like, football and business, because I help a lot of athletes transition.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I find is, an athlete, like a football player, knows how great they are and what makes them really good. Like, they know every single strength, every single thing. Well, a lot of times those strengths are just them being their true authentic self, and they lean into it, right? Well, the same thing in business I found is, like, people, like the most successful business people that I interact with and meet, and I get to meet some incredible ones, like, they are truly being themselves, and they're just applying their greatest strengths to whatever they're doing. And it's like, those people make movement.
Yeah.
Like, that's real.
And don't you think, like, that's something I've had to really learn and work at over the course of my career. But, like, when you see that in someone, you know it, right? And we're also hungry for authenticity nowadays, right? Yeah. Like, when you see it, you know it, and that you want to be around that energy. I was going to tell a story. So about a year and a half ago, I was invited into, like, this consortium, right? And it was like, invitation only, yada, yada, yada. And I get to the first meeting and this woman walks up to me, and there's like 3 U.S. companies that are in this consortium. And I had heard that she wasn't super happy about me being invited.
Making moves already.
I was
making
super
moves.
nervous. And I walked in and I was like just grabbing a drink and saying hello to some people. And she walked up to me and she said, "Hey, you're Jennifer, right?" And I said, "Yeah, you must be Patricia." And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Why are you here?"
Hey, let's go.
Yeah. And I was like, because
Did you throw your bags down and grab her by the hair?
100% taken after that girl that pulled. No, I'm just kidding.
That's the Kerns in
That's
you, Jen.
right. You can't take the Kerns out of me. It's one of my proudest. No, but actually before that, so I'd learned a long time ago to do this thing, and it sounds similar, but like, you know, you're nervous, you've got the imposter syndrome coming, you're like, I don't know if I can do this, I'm giving a presentation, I'm talking to Patricia, right, whatever it is. I went into the bathroom before this meeting, right, stood in front of the mirror, like did my superwoman pose, right, and I was like, I deserve to be here. I have earned this opportunity, right? I am the greatest of all time at my thing, right? That's why I'm here. And so I was just like, and I just would like to say, over the 3 days that we were at this conference, I won her over. We were friends. We're friends now,
work.
right?
Let's go. Yeah,
but it
great.
is like, it's like that, but it's hard in like day-to-day reality. So I want to ask you a question. So that's great, discipline, you know, creating a sort of a place for you to sort of, you know, figure out how to get into the zone. But then you go out on the field and you totally mess something up, right? A play doesn't go right. It's your fault. And you're right. Like, and in business happens, you know, more times than I'd like, right? Where you're just like, wow, I really screwed that one up. How do you come back from that, right?
Yeah.
Failure.
Oh, it's so common in sports. But that's why I love sports. I think everyone should play a sport because
100%.
you learn how to handle adversity.
Yeah.
Because it's going to hit every day in practice. Every day, every game, you're going to handle adversity. Whether it's you or your teammate, you have to learn how to, you know, you have a teammate that really messed up. How do I react as a teammate now? That's so important. So this is what I would say and what I've seen just work for me personally. So what happens is, okay, let me give an example. Okay, I've gotten a lot of penalties, right? Jump off sides, or maybe a holding penalty, or maybe maybe you just missed the tackle and they just ran for a first down at MetLife Stadium, and it happened to be Aaron Rodgers, but you were a defensive end at the time, and you didn't know he was going to be your teammate.
Real story. Feeling the realness here.
And it's like, okay, well, what happens? Well, in sports, you can easily go to the next play. It's like next play. But where's your mind?
Yeah.
Like your mind might still be back there. And if it's in the past, that's where regret is. So you're actually not going to perform at a high level if it's there. Now it's like a lot of people's brains will go to the future, and it's like, oh no, what if I do that again? Now that's where fear is. So then you miss the present again. So it's like, okay, that just happened in the past. How do I come back here but not go too far? So for me, I have to pretty much take my job, whatever it is, as a defensive end, right? My job is to sack the quarterback on a passing down or something. And I have to go just right down to the very basic fundamental, right? And so for me, how it works, right, is on the field, it's going to be the basic fundamental is your stance. So I start to think about the cues about my stance. So now I'm taking that space and filling it with something so basic, but I win because my stance is perfect. Well, that ball snapped, the next cue comes in, right? Explode off the ball, right? I explode off the ball. There's another win. And I keep going and going and going. So I take something very dramatic and bad that just happened, bring it down to where can I win with something I know so well to get me back on that, and really now I'm blocking out all distraction. All I see is winning. And so it's being able to handle those bad plays and mess ups. And because everyone can win all the time. A lot of times we're just slowing ourselves down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I love that.
So I think it's important to know that.
Do you guys watch Ted Lasso?
Oh, of course.
I have a
I love Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso quote, and it's
Let's
like,
go. Yes.
be a goldfish, right?
Be a goldfish,
I
yes.
love it.
Yes.
That's exactly what you're saying, right? You're
Yeah.
just like, nope, gotta just like be here, be now, keep going, right? And
Yeah.
not get stuck with all the failure.
Yeah. So for years, or for the last 2 years, we've talked about my amateur bull riding career. Very amateur. I want to stress
bull rider.
the
Let's
amateur
go.
part of my bull riding career.
But
right?
like, he's being humble. Like, you stayed on that bull for a long time.
never been on a bull.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
And you didn't die.
Almost, but I didn't. Almost.
Yes,
but I can walk away
feel
from
like
it and
that's
say
a
that
win.
now, right?
That is a big W.
And I want to talk about the stance for a minute, right? Because
Yeah.
so I went out, I found a bull riding school. I went out to Colorado to this ranch where this guy raises bulls for the PBR and he bucks them in the professional.
I
bull
watched
riding.
PBR with my son.
Okay, all right.
So I know.
So I go there and I'm looking at these bulls to go ride, and I'm like, these are some big bulls. And he's like, oh, don't worry, these ones are the high school bucking bulls. They're lame. They won't do as much. So don't worry about your first time. Like, you're a big guy. I think I was like 230 when I was on them in the first place. I'm like, I'm gonna get thrown around. And he's like, you will for sure. Like, you're not short, you're not small. Like, they're gonna own you, right? So I went with that. But we had a full day of, okay, you sit in the pen, and this is how you get into the chute. And that was my stance. This is how you get in the chute. This is how you step over the gate and climb on top of the bull. And then when you're on the bull, this is how you tie the rope, and this is how your hand goes. And then once your hands go, this is where you pull your body. And then once you pull your body, this is where you nod your head. And when you nod your head, this is where you watch their shoulder blades. And it was a step by step, just like you talked about in a different sport, of things that you have to remember once you get to that next one. And I remember getting up, nodding my head, and that gate opening, I blacked out. I forgot everything.
Is that because you hit your head coming down?
No, it's
and it was
because
gone?
my adrenaline was crazy, and I was so just shaky, scared, like, oh my gosh, this 1,500-pound animal is going to take me for a ride, and I'm tied to this thing. Like,
Yeah.
I can't believe, right? So afterwards, I get done, and my coach pulls me aside, and we go to the side and talk about what we did wrong. And he's like, you know what you did wrong? I'm like, no. I don't remember anything.
Yeah.
I thought I fell off the right side. I fell off the left side of the bull. I didn't know what was going on, right? So it was like, yeah, hold on next time. So next time, keep your spurs in your feet around the bull's belly,
Yeah.
and try
Technique.
to hang on a little bit more, right? So I'm learning something new. The dumb thing is, you got to get on another bull to try it again.
Yeah. You're like, okay. there we
So
go.
I'm practicing getting into the chute, getting my hand tied and going off. And then this time, I held on, and I put my legs around that bull, and I held onto that rope, and I made sure he didn't buck me off. And I didn't get bucked off, but he turned, and my rope turned under his belly, and I held onto it, and that's when I fell under the bull and got stepped on because I held on, just like my coach said.
Oh, my
And he's
goodness.
like, so I go see him the next time, and he's like, okay, don't hold on that long. If you're falling down, go off. But it was something new every time that you've got to practice and practice and practice to try that.
Yeah.
And I've mentioned this. I said, how many bulls does it take before you get your muscle memory to know which direction to go and how it's going to be? And he's like, probably after your first 100. And I rode 3. I'm like, oh, I got a long ways ahead of me. Right? So
Yeah.
so that's, and I think when you put that into business and your mental health part of it, you have to get back up and try.
Yeah.
Everybody will fail.
You're gonna fail.
Everybody will fail.
Yes.
Whether it's, not calling back a prospect or missing out on numbers, or you didn't hit the expectations of what they wanted, we're not going to win every single day, and we're going to have problems ahead of us.
Yeah.
But the next day you wake up, you try to be a little
Try
bit better
again. Yep.
and try something new.
Yeah, 100%. One of the things that I think there's business owners, you take a lot of risk, you get out there, right? You start building, and then you have to hire people, right? Leading a team is like it's like parenting, right? It's like the most humbling, hardest thing to do. So I want to know, like, in your experience kind of transitioning into business, Bronson, like what are the similarities and the experiences that have served you in terms of like team building, right? And
Yeah.
leading people.
Yeah, man. Leading people is tough.
Yeah.
Right? Just like you said. I would say, the greatest leaders that I've been around are able to get people to move, like to do, because, leaders are leading to get people to sometimes, most of the time accomplish things that a lot of people have never thought about before. And so I would say, some of the greatest leaders as far as, leaders in the game of football, just in sports, but it translates perfectly. These leaders in football, like Aaron Rodgers, for example, he's one of the most phenomenal leaders. Why? Because he, first of all, that he really cares about you. Like he wants you to be great. And he respects you because he knows that you're going to go all in, right? So, and as a player, like if he gets on you, right? Sometimes our leaders get on us, right? We've all had that and experienced that. But when a leader gets on you, it's like, as a football player, and if Aaron does that, it's like, I respect him so much. I actually love it. And I'm like, because he wants to be great.
Yeah.
And he's coming from a place of just winning.
Yeah.
And we drop everything at the door. And that's why it was really awesome to see that, that, man, good leaders, they are going to get on you sometimes because they can see the greatness in you and they don't want to see it go away. They want you to be great. And so I would say, but it starts from like really knowing that they care about you because that trust is so strong. Like, oh man, the players, like when you go out to a game, I have to trust you. Like, that you're going to do your job, I'm going to do my job, and we're all going to work together. If that trust isn't there, then it's going to be hard to get any player to move.
Yeah.
So I think being able to really focus on, okay, how can I help my people that I lead, feel more loved, cared about, and seen? And if you can do that, man, now you're at a place of, now people will listen, and now people will move, and now people. But it's hard to ever get to that point if that's not there.
So is there like a memory you have of Aaron, like where you were like, this guy cares about me, like that you knew that, like you really knew it, you felt it?
Yes.
What did it look like? Yeah.
I would say, man.
Get the tissues ready, guys.
Get the blanket.
You brought your wubby, right?
Here we go. I would say there's a few times because he's really good at this, and he's cultivated this over time. I can tell. But whenever he makes a mistake, he's the first one to be accountable about it. And I experienced that, right? And it just would blow me away, like that even the player at his caliber, he's the leader, everyone knows who he, all these things. Lots of times that's how it feels when you go into a business. There's someone that's the leader, and man, I think the coolest thing is when a leader like that is accountable for their mistakes, you become human. You become real. I think that's one of the most important things for leaders is to become real. Like you're in the mix here. Like you're part of the team. You're going to do all the hard work. And so for me, I loved that. And I loved how I never felt like he was too big. Does that make sense? So
totally.
And so it was really cool to see that and experience that because it would go throughout the whole locker room.
Yeah.
So if anyone asked anyone to do something, I'm all in. Like I'm going to do it. And if you weren't like that, you're out the next day. So, it's all about like that championship culture gets cultivated, from leaders.
I love that. Well, I feel like too, I think I read a post that you made on LinkedIn and it was something to the effect of like, when you're in business or on a team or whatever, like you have to know what you're good at, know your job, right? And then like also know what you're not good at and give people space. So for Aaron to be like, I made a mistake or he showed his human side, but also like giving you the space to be good at your thing, right? And respect you for that. But like in business, I think sometimes leaders, like we get kind of this mindset where we're supposed to have all the answers. And what I've learned with my team.
Wait, what? We are?
I know.
I'm way far behind the line.
You're way
far.
You're doing great. Keep it up. Keep it up. I had to learn over time. Like I just needed to be like to find the people in my space that did know the things that I didn't know, right? And be willing to just be like, I have no idea. Elizabeth, what do you think? Right? Or right? Like help me understand because this is your goat, right? This is not my goat. This is your goat. Like tell me what do you think, right? So harnessing sort of the power of your team around you and not feeling like you've got to have all the answers all the time.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. I think that's why you do so good at your team and what you guys have done over the last couple of years. You've definitely cultivated a good a good energy within your guys' office and what you do, and
Thank
that's obviously
you.
led to your accolades and you winning people over.
I'm still learning. That's the other thing I love about business, and even in what you're playing a sport, whatever. Like it's the 1% better every day, right? That you were just talking about. Like, man, life is just such a great teacher. You are always going to learn, and so you've got to have the mindset that leaves you open to that. Because if you get hard and rigid with those failures or those setbacks, it can get pretty.
You find yourself in a hole real fast.
You find yourself in a pretty dark place. Yeah.
So with all the wisdom that you've helped us bring onto the show, one, thank you for that. This has been great having you on. I want to ask one closing question as we get into this, right?
Okay.
So you go from, right, a life of football, watching your dad, your brothers, everybody plays it, right? You retire, you transition into the entrepreneurial business world of things. What was that like for you to make that pivot, one? And then two, what advice would you give somebody else that's looking to make a pivot in their life or career or a change for something for the better or chasing that dream?
Yeah. I would say with any transition in life, you're going to find yourself facing fear because it's the unknown. And, for me, going from football and then into business, I found that, man, the fear is the unknown. So how do I counteract that? Just go. Just go. And I'm not going to know everything. I'm not going to know everyone. I'm not going to know. I might not be qualified right now, but I'm going to go. And like you said, I'm going to learn. I'll learn fast. But I don't want to remain stagnant and in that hole where I'm by myself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not, human beings, we're not built for that. Like, we're meant to be out moving, doing things with people, learning with people. And I think a lot of players, including myself, man, that cycle, it's going to hit. And if you're not willing to just go and know that you don't know everything, but I'm willing to go, it changes that transition from fear to learning and then to growth. And then all of a sudden more and more starts coming. And I think that's super important, especially in business, where if you've been doing something for a while and now that sun is setting, now if you can get ahead of it, that's helpful. But if not, if it happens now, it's like, okay, I just need to go figure this out as we go here. It's hard because that is easier said than done.
Yeah.
But even if you just go, you don't have to go that big, something drastic. Just go a little bit. Maybe go take some friends out to lunch and just talk with them. Like that's going, or, maybe it's putting your thoughts about the next step in life on a LinkedIn post, telling people, I've learned, this is what I've learned. This is what I'm looking forward to, but I'm open to learn from anyone as this is closing and now I'm moving on. I think when you're open like that, it changes it for you. And people are surprised by how much help is actually there.
Yeah.
If you're willing to open
100%.
up. Right?
100%.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole story with the chamber, right? Like you come into the chamber and you just realize you have a whole community of people who are cheering for you, who are there to show up and help. And I need some finance advice. I got a friend, Dave, who can help me, right? Like it's just amazing when you put yourself out there, what you realize is available to you.
So
such great advice.
Last night we had an after hours event at Kona Grill up at Mountain View Village, and we were getting wrapped up, and I saw a familiar face from across the room, and Tammy Stagel from Ruby Snap Cookies was
No
there.
way!
And we had Tammy on our
Love
podcast
her.
back in 2022, right?
Yeah.
And
Bronson,
we're-
have you had a Ruby Snap cookie?
No.
Okay,
but I will.
we're gonna change your life. We'll tell you
You
all
eat
about
cookies,
it.
right?
I eat anything.
All right. Okay, so we'll plug
We'll
Ruby
plug-
Snap Cookies
yes,
in here for
yes.
Tammy, right? And I'm like, is that her? That's got to be her. That's got to be her. I pulled up our picture from the podcast, and I went up and I said, hey, Tammy, and she turned around and I'm like, it's Dave. We did the podcast. She's like, oh my gosh, I remember, right? And I'm like, what are you doing out here? And one of her friends that owns a gym who's not a member invited her, and Tammy, not a member of the chamber. She's like, yeah, I'm just trying to look at it. Haven't joined the chamber yet, looking to do something. And our podcast clicked for her that she did that.
Amazing.
And it was the last thing out of her mind
I
at
love
that
that.
time, but we connected the dots with it. And after I went and introduced myself and talked to her, there was 2 or 3 other guests that were at our event last night that also came up and talked to her that knew her son and motorcycle racing and see those other things. And she's all of a sudden had this crowd around her, right? And she's like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I'm just Tammy. Like, I own a cookie company. And it's like, you have a bigger impact than what you think you do on people. And that resonates. And obviously you have 4 or 5 people that now want to talk to you and share and ask questions and talk about their story and hear from you, because people look up to you probably when you least expect it or don't even think that you have that, right?
Yeah.
So that comment, thank you for that, because that's exactly what it brought in. And I think what our listeners and members of the chamber and you know, aspiring entrepreneurs always need to know is that whether you're on the field or off the field, you still are going to touch people in the way that you interact and carry yourself.
Totally.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we need to make sure that we mention before we leave. So you guys, I hope all of the listeners are feeling like totally pumped and excited. Like, this is so energizing, this conversation. But Bronson, you speak at events. You're like a motivational speaker. You're also like a youth sports coach. Tell us about the other jobs that you have.
Stuff? Yeah.
Yes, the other business adventures.
So I started when I was done playing. As I was going to, you know, nephews and nieces' games, I started to notice that, wow, athletes are still struggling with the mental side of the game at this level. Well, they can't go get one of the pro mindset coaches because they're so expensive, like, and they're with the teams full time. So I was like, okay, I've been coached by incredible coaches. I'm gonna do something about this. So I built an online course, and I built it like Reels. So it's like they're used to it.
Nice. Smart.
And they're short, and you know, with actual things they can do. And I launched a website called youngathletesociety.com, and I have an Instagram page. You have to follow it.
I will.
But it's all about motivation.
Subscribe here.
Yeah. I love that stuff because
so cool.
so many athletes need it.
Yeah.
And I actually got even before the website, I started meeting with some kids. I got to the point where I couldn't even meet with everyone. There was too many kids and parents that wanted something like this. So that's why I ended up doing the course, online course. And so, yeah, Young Athlete Society, I have that, which I love. And it's just such a passion of mine. And then everything, I mean, that's why I got into the whole real estate games, because I want to help my teammates in the NFL make, you know, some decisions that could help them further the money that they earn and work so hard for, you know. And so real estate, that's why I started into real estate. That's why I did Young Athlete Society. That's why I'm also part of an NFL agency, OG1 Athletes. And I'm head of player development, so I help our guys off the field. So yeah, anything to do with helping people, I'm all game for it.
Stay busy. I love this. Well, my 12-year-old who is going to be a professional soccer player, that's his plan.
Yeah, I like that plan.
I'm going to get him set up with the Tell us again, it's the youth.
Young Athlete
Society. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm on it. That's awesome. Well, Bronson, this has been such a treat for us. I'm just like so excited about you and everything that you've done and the message that you've given us today.
Yeah, I'm going to be smiling for days.
I'm going to be,
So you're going to get some DMs. They won't be creepy.
Yes,
You'll get some DMs.
Yes. I think we're going to be like chamber. We need Bronson to be speaking at an event soon.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, and thank you to all of our listeners for spending another episode with the Jen and Dave Show. Thank you very much.